Alright, so I wanted to spend some of this video talking about how exactly we got to come to this beautiful resort in the Maldives, the Waldorf, and essentially stay the whole time free, or at least with points. There's caveats to that because it isn't completely free. You have to figure out the flights, which you can potentially also do with points. You have to think about spending for food if you want to do a spa or anything like that. And then there's also the cost of the yacht transfer, which can be about $900 or so per person, which I'll talk about that too and how you can do that with points. I'm going to talk mostly about points for the hotel today and specifically Hilton, but I wanted to specifically focus on what's the best way to come to this incredible once-in-a-lifetime vacation. Do it all with points, so here we go. So first, I'd like to talk about how there's multiple different ecosystems in which you can use points to try to get free stays at hotels. And many people will tell you that the best points redemption is actually to use it for flights. But I feel like while that is a great option, you have to figure out what does the point system work like with each individual airline. Once you send your points over to that specific airline, you might be kind of locked into using those points and that airline. And if you don't book the flight the right time, it can be a little bit more murky. Whereas I feel like booking within Hilton can be a little bit more straightforward because it's more of a known quantity. So for us, using Hilton points has been some of the best way to redeem points. And the way that we do that is with American Express membership reward points. So we previously used Chase. They have great points. There's other cards that can get you really great points. But the American Express ecosystem has been pretty awesome for us. So we have a couple different cards with American Express. We have the AMEX Platinum. We have the AMEX Gold. We each have a Hilton Aspire and we each have a Hilton Surpass. All of those are American Express cards. You can have a maximum of 4 cards per person, although business cards don't necessarily count towards that. We don't have any ourselves. We haven't had to use any right now. And then we eventually plan to upgrade our Surpasses to Aspires as well, so we have a total of 4 Aspires. I would like to say off the bat, this video is not whatsoever sponsored. We're a pretty new channel anyway, so no one is paying us to do any of these videos. I'm just doing them because I think you can really get a lot of value out of points. I'm gonna pull over someone randomly in the grocery store and try to tell them about points if I get the chance. Just ask Brittany. I think this is a really underutilized, if you use it correctly, it's not gonna destroy your credit. I've opened and closed a lot of cards, and as long as we pay everything on time, our credit history is good. When I cancel a card, it doesn't really take a big hit on my credit. And so I think this is a really unique way to get really a lot of value from using credit cards for points. I think these cards, the most important thing is to leverage your spend to get the most points out of it. So you're gonna spend some of this money anyway, no matter what. The goal is to maximize the points you can get out of the cash you would have spent anyways, not necessarily go out of your way to spend, because then you could just book the vacation with cash. So if you're gonna spend money, leverage that with points. One big disclaimer I'd like to have about all these credit cards is that you should really try not to carry any credit card debt whatsoever. I'm not a big fan of debt regardless, but credit card debt, the interest rates are like 25% or higher. And so don't spend anything more than you have and you're ready to pay each month. So let me cover each of those a little bit briefly. First off, the AMEX Platinum. The AMEX Platinum, I believe you can get anywhere from like 80,000 points to about 160,000 points depending on the offer. After you spend somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 in the first 3 to 6 months, it really depends what offer you specifically get. Obviously, try to go for the offers where you're going to get the most points. I believe we got about 160,000 points for that bonus spend, and that goes a really long way. We mostly use that for travel, so you get 5 times points in terms of spend for airlines that you spend specifically within the airline. You don't have to do that through the AMEX portal, or you can book hotels through the AMEX portal to get those 5 times points. Again, I don't think that's necessarily the best use of cash. You should just book directly with the hotel so you can accrue points with their loyalty reward programs. But if you use it to book flights, that's a fantastic way to get those 5 times points back. So some of the things to think about for the AMEX Platinum, yes, it is a really expensive card. It's about $695 a year. And so you're gonna say, why would I spend that much on a card? Especially for us, we don't use it that much, but the way that you have to do it is you have to maximize the points that you can get out of it. So you get instantly a $200 Uber Eats cash equivalent. So that means that every month you get about $15 for Uber or Uber Eats. We use it to get Uber Eats, at least once a month. And so that's money that we would have spent anyways. So that's $200. Another $200 goes in statement credits towards incidentals towards one specific airline. So if you have a Southwest hub, you can put Southwest. If you have a Delta hub, or if you have a United hub, you can make that your specific airline. Or if you just are a Reward Platinum member of, American Airlines, you can specify that airline and use incidentals. So the cost of like luggage, the cost to upgrade to Economy Plus, those kinds of costs, you can have about $200 in statement credits. So far we're about $400 out of worth in terms of that card, $695 of the fee per year. So what else can you get out of it? There's also a $240 per year credit that you get towards entertainment. So that can be the Disney bundle, Hulu, New York Times. There's a couple of other options. And so for us, we have a little kiddo, we were going to have Disney anyways. So being able to spend $240 a year towards those entertainment services means that we're going to get that money back anyway. So now we're at about 200 plus 200 plus 240. We're already at $640 out of worth out of that card. Not to mention the reward bonus that you get for signing up for the card, which is worth a lot, and I'll get to that in a second. And finally, honestly, one of the biggest things, especially if you're going to travel internationally and you want to try to fly business class or fly first class, or I think even Economy Plus, there's the International Airways program. For the most part, I don't like using the AMEX portal to book hotels because I think you don't get some of the benefits that you would normally get if you book through those hotel chains. But the exception is the International Airways program. With the International Airways program, you can actually book discounted fares in business, first, and I think Economy Plus tickets internationally. So actually our flight here, yes, we could have gotten it with points. We didn't end up doing that because it was worthwhile for us to spend on business to bring Gia and have her be able to sleep and us be able to sleep so we can enjoy our full time here that we have since it's only 6 nights. But essentially we saved about $1,500 by booking this business class ticket through the International Airways program on Amex. And so just with that alone, we have recovered 2 years worth of the annual fee for the Amex Platinum. So that is a massive, massive benefit. I really think people underuse it or don't know enough about it. So if you have an AMEX Platinum, use the International Airways program to try to book a discounted first class or business class ticket. One other credit that you can also get with the Platinum is reimbursement for global entry or TSA pre, and I think that's something that we all have, so definitely worthwhile getting. We're not going to get it every year, but we certainly have put it to use. And the final one that we care a little less about is the Clear credit. We have Clear, but most of the time we find that the TSA pre-check line is just as fast. Okay, I almost forgot, and I swear this one's the last one, but another benefit that we actually like about the Platinum is that you get about $50 semi-annually to use on Saks Fifth Avenue, and so we actually use $50 every half year on something. It could be for Gia, it could be, I think I actually got this hat on Saks Fifth, and so you can use that to get a free $50. Obviously, their goal is to get you to spend more with their partner because everything at Saks is super expensive. But we just find something that's like just above the 50 so we can get that credit. And that's an easy way to get something that we might want for us or for Gio. And then also one great thing about it is that you'll get access to lounges. And so a really nice one that we got to hang out in before our flight to Doha. We were flying out of Houston, so we went to the Centurion Lounge. And so we were both able to hang out in the lounge, have really amazing food, have drinks. So that's just another perk. I don't think that's why you get it, but all of these little perks just accrue to make it worthwhile. Now, when it comes to the actual sign-up bonus, if you get about 160,000 membership reward points after a certain amount of spend in the first 3 to 6 months, that bonus can go a super, super long way. So just to put it into perspective, this stay cost us 600,000 points for 4 nights. When you book with points with Hilton, you get the 5th night free. And so that means that we spent 600,000 points and then we used one of our Aspire cards to use our free night credit for an additional night. So again, we didn't pay any cash for that. So how do Hilton points equivalent to membership reward points from Amex? You basically multiply times 2. So if we had 160,000 points from the Amex Platinum, multiply that times 2, that's 320,000 points that we get in terms of Hilton. But even more important than that, you have to wait to their specific transfer bonus reward months. So any given month, they might offer a 2.6 point bonus instead of a 2 points from Hilton per 1 point from Amex. So that means if you transferred within that, you could end up getting about 400,000 points or more with that transfer. And so that's a really fantastic way to maximize the points. I believe would have been a cost of about $20 $25,000 for the 6 nights that we didn't end up paying anything for. And we got a complimentary upgrade to the King Reef Overwater Villa. So it's probably even worth more than that. Now I want to talk about the AMEX Gold. The AMEX Gold is really kind of our daily driver. This is the card that we use the most on a day-to-day basis, and so this is the card that we accrue the most points with. So the annual cost for that card is about $320. So again, that's definitely a high fee, but you can offset it with some of the credits. So there's a $120 annual credit for Uber Eats. Again, we're going to use Uber or Uber Eats at least once a month, so we can offset $120. Another $120 you get dining credit at the Cheesecake Factory at Grubhub. We personally use Grubhub probably once a month again to eat out, and so that's another $120, adding up to about $240. And then there's a $100 Resi credit, so $50 semi-annually. So if you think about the 100 plus 120 plus 120, that's $340 to offset the $320. That being said, again, you can also get a sign-up bonus of about maybe somewhere between 60,000 to 80,000 points, depending on if you spend $4,000 to $6,000 in the first 3 to 6 months. So it all varies depending on when you specifically sign up for the card. The really biggest benefit for us for the AMEX Gold is being able to use those points, because you get 4 points back per every dollar spent on groceries, so supermarkets, and also 4 points per dollar spent on eating out, so restaurants. So those are the 2 categories that really we spend the most. You know, we're on this really lavish vacation, but for the most part, we're not really big spenders. We don't do a lot of shopping, but we're going to spend on groceries every month, and we're going to spend for sure on restaurants every month, because we do like to eat out. And so if you think about your budget for how much you might eat out in a month and how much you spend on groceries, and you add that up over the year and you multiply it times 4, that's a way to get a lot of points in any given year. Add that to the bonus of signing up for the card, and we're talking about upwards of 100,000 points in that first year. And so again, if we transfer on a 2.5, 2.6 transfer bonus from Amex to Hilton, that ends up being about 260,000 points. So far we're talking about, between the AMEX Platinum and the Gold and those sign-up bonuses alone, you have about 600,000 or so, maybe more, Hilton points, and you can already book this Maldives vacation. So we could cut the video here, but I do want to talk about some of the benefits with the Hilton specific cards, so we'll talk about that now. Now I want to talk about the Hilton Aspire card. This is absolutely one of my favorite cards. I think there's tremendous value. So the cost of this card is $550 per year. So again, that's a lot of money to spend, but the way that I think about it is, if I'm going to spend X amount of money on a vacation, we have each an Aspire, so that we're talking about $1,100 between the 2 of us. But right now we're enjoying a vacation that's worth upwards of $25,000 to $30,000, and if we're spending just $1,100, maybe some more with the extra cards to get that vacation, then it's like setting aside a budget for those vacations. So I think that's definitely worthwhile. Some of the actual benefits that you get with the Hilton Aspire is a $400 credit, so $200 semi-annually, so you can't spend it all at once, but essentially $200 statement credit each half year towards Hilton. And so if I'm staying here, if I went and got a massage, if I went to one of the restaurants to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get a burger, like $40 to get a burger here in the Maldives, we could put that on our folio, and then when we went to pay at the end, if we paid, say, $400 for everything that we paid to eat, $200 of that would come off from my Aspire, $200 of that would get another statement credit for Brittany's Aspire, and so we'd get $400 back semi-annually for the 2 of us, or if it's just one, $200 in one half year, $200 in the second half of the year. So if we take 2 vacations a year, one in the first half of the year, one in the second half of the year, we're going to get that statement credit back. So we're talking about $200 back out of the $550 so far. You also get a $200 flight credit every year with the Hilton Aspire, and so that actually is quarterly. So it's kind of annoying that you have to think about it. We actually just set an alarm every quarter of each year, and we go spend $50, and it doesn't matter which airline. So the way we do it, we are close to a United hub, and so we put $50 every quarter in the travel bank with United, so that way we don't necessarily have to spend on a flight or with an airline each quarter if we're not traveling each quarter of the year, but we just stack up travel bank with United to get incrementally $50 each quarter up until a point when we travel with United. Then we can dip into that travel bank. So it's a really nice benefit to get $200. So right now we're at $200 between the statement credit for the airline, $400 resort credit. So that's about $600. That's already the cost of the card. But the real absolutely best benefit with the Hilton Aspire that makes it worthwhile the $550 is the free night certificate. So you get one free night certificate per year. Usually comes about 3 months after you sign up for the card, so don't expect to sign up for it and then immediately get it. But once you get that free night certificate, you can use it pretty much at any hotel as long as you use a standard redemption. What does that mean? Not every single hotel is going to have standard redemption. It's actually pretty hard to find it here in the Maldives. Sometimes it's 1,000,000 points for one night, but if you watch it like a hawk, either really far in advance or really close to the time of travel, you can find a lot of standard availability at even some of the most highly sought after hotels. Like here, we stayed in the Waldorf in Cabo, also a beautiful hotel. And so you can get those free night certificates to use there. And so we used one of our free night certificates here, and that would have been upwards of $1,000, maybe $2,000 for one night. And so we're getting $2,000 worth of benefit in addition to the resort credit, in addition to the airline credit. And so that really, I think the Aspire really pays for itself really fast. This is why we each have one, so that we can have 2 free night certificates per year. And we also have 2 Surpasses, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but we're going to upgrade those Surpasses to Aspires. And so then we're going to have 4 Aspires. And so you're saying, dude, you're really going to pay $2,200 a year for 4 credit cards? And my answer to that is, if I can stay at some of these really nice hotels and get those 4 free night certificates, any given year, that's going to be worth much more than $2,100 if you use it correctly. If you're talking about hotels that cost $800 or more per night, and we have 4 of those, that adds up to almost $4,000, sometimes more depending on how we spend it. And so it's a really worthwhile way to get really nice luxury vacations for the cost of a more moderately priced vacation. I'm not saying it's cheap, but you're leveraging spend that you already would have done with groceries, restaurants, travel to get a lot of value back. And so would I ever pay $25,000 to $30,000 for a vacation? Brittany and I would tell you absolutely not. But this is just a way to really get this kind of luxury without having to pay the sticker price. The other benefits that you get with the Hilton Aspire, you also get to be a Hilton Diamond automatically. So that's an elite level of, loyalty within Hilton. We stayed mostly in a couple of different Waldorfs, and we get $50 towards a breakfast, $25 a pop between her and me, and every single day. We also have gotten complimentary upgrades. So here, Maldives is actually not known to give a lot of upgrades. They'll state it actually in their hotel. Most hotels, especially internationally, can get a lot of upgrades. Domestically, a lot of people say that they don't get a lot of upgrades, and we haven't really gotten one domestically. But here, they actually specify on the website they're not going to give complimentary upgrades, but we actually got an upgrade to the King Overwater Villa. And so just goes to show that diamond status can really get you a lot. So that's one perk that you get out of diamond status. You can also potentially get late checkout, early checking, depending on availability and if you ask for that. Also, I didn't mention it, but just like the AMEX Gold and the AMEX Platinum, there is a sign-up bonus. I think for us it was 150 to 180,000 points after spending about 3 to 4,000 in 3 to 6 months. Again, that kind of varies, but that's another 150 to 180,000 points we each got with the Aspire, and that's Hilton points. So that's not membership reward AMEX points. You can't times that by 2. So they're locked into the Hilton ecosystem. But again, we use a lot of the Hilton ecosystem. So by having the marriage of the AMEX membership reward points and the Hilton points that we kind of pooled together, we are able to get multiple vacations a year without really paying for them. One more thing about these Hilton cards is that, when we're actually staying in Hilton, and this is a way to potentially keep exponentially increasing your points essentially with Hilton, is that while we're staying here, we'll still have a bill for the restaurants that we go. If we went to the spa, we would have a bill for that. Sometimes if we chose to pay for the hotel, when you pay for the Hilton, this is why you shouldn't book through the AMEX portal. When we booked through Hilton and we used our Hilton Aspire cards to pay, you can get up to 34 points per spend at Hilton. Some of that is just through the actual stay itself, at least 14 times points for the actual restaurants and spa, but you get a lot of Hilton points back. So say if we were to spend $1,000 on a hotel at Hilton, then that would book potentially 34 times. Sometimes they have even multipliers, so you can get even more. So you could get, for $1,000 of spend, about 34,000 Hilton points or more. And so again, that's a quick way to rack up these points knowing that a lot of these standard redemptions for the nicest hotels are 100,000, 120,000 was the Cabo, 150,000 standard redemption per night is here in the Maldives. And so these can add up really fast. And this is not even to mention there's a lot of hotels and there's a lot of value to be had for staying in some of the lower tier Hilton hotels that can still be great internationally that may cost 20,000 a night, 30,000 a night. And so that's a lot more economic route to take if you just want to take cheaper vacations with less points and make your points go further. It just depends what kind of vacation you like to take. Finally, I wanted to talk about the last card that we have that we still think is really valuable, which is the Hilton Surpass. We're going to upgrade it to Aspire because you can do that after a year. The Surpass card is a more modest cost of $150 per year, so it's a lot more accessible. You still get the sign-up bonus depending on what it might be during your specific time you sign up. It could be anywhere from 100 to 150,000 points, depending on how much spend you do in the first 3 to 6 months. And so the Surpass is really nice because it gets automatic gold status at Hilton, which the Platinum actually gives you. But if you don't have the Platinum, then you can get that through the Surpass. You also get a free night certificate after you spend $15,000 in a given year. So if you're not going to spend that, that's not going to matter as much. You get $200 statement credit at Hilton through the Surpass. So that's another benefit you get to offset the cost of the card. And you still get the points that if you spend at Hilton, you're going to get those points back times, I believe, about 12 times multiplier, so 30 times multiplier or so. So it's a lot of points that you can get through the Surpass also. One funny little caveat that I want to add, and this is relevant because this happened to us, make sure you bring your physical Hilton cards when you stay at Hilton properties. I've gone deep down the rabbit hole of knowing exactly, we're going to use the gold for restaurants and supermarkets. We're going to use the Platinum to book flights. We're going to use the Surpass to make online purchases because you get 3 times the points when you use the Surpass. We're going to use the Aspire when we pay at Hilton because we're going to get the most Hilton points out of that. But that also means that you actually have to physically bring your cards, whether that's the Aspire, the Surpass, or the no-cost Hilton card, which I'm not going to talk about, but you have to bring them. Also, someone might say, hey, I really want to take that Maldives vacation, but I can't necessarily spend $6,000 with this card in the first 3 to 6 months, then another $6,000 with that card to get these transfer bonuses or reward bonuses. And my answer to that is, personally, what we like to do is if we know we have a really large expense coming up, like our AC broke in the middle of summer, so that's a little shorter notice. But if we know, hey, we're going to have to spend to replace our AC unit for a repair, if we know we have tuition, whatever it might be that you have coming up is going to be a big expense and you're able to put that on a card, then that's a way that you can start racking up all these reward bonuses to eventually have a ton of points that you can use for really valuable vacations that are worth much more than what you pay for them. Finally, something else that you can also kind of stack on top of this within the AMEX Platinum, the AMEX Gold, the AMEX Aspire, Hilton Aspire, and the Hilton Surpass, there's special offers that you can sign up for the card in any given month. And so for the second half of the year, I think it was, there was a special offer on the Aspire, and you have to go through the portal itself, through the actual app, to add these onto your card. But for each Aspire, there was an offer where if you spend $1,250 within a certain time frame at Hilton, you get $250 statement credit back. So we actually would end up getting $200 through each Aspire back in statement credits. We would also get $250 off each Aspire for this special offer we signed up for. So that means we really get $900 off our folio bill at the end of this trip. So if we spend $2,500 worth, what we'll really pay is about $1,600, which I think is really reasonable. To get here, you actually have to take a yacht. That cost is about $950 for a 45-minute yacht ride. And so while it was really luxury, they gave us really nice champagne. Do I really think it was worth $900 per person for that yacht ride? Absolutely not. But there's a workaround. You can actually go on the Hilton website and there's places where you can spend your Hilton points for experiences. And so you can actually spend 100,000 Hilton points per person for the yacht ride round trip. And so instead of spending whatever it was, $1,800, close to $2,000 for yacht ride to get us here, we actually used Hilton points so that we didn't have to pay any cash for that. And even if you don't have the Hilton points, it actually makes sense because you, as a Hilton member, through Hilton, you can actually buy points 2 for 1. So you can spend $500 to get 100,000 Hilton points. And so what does that mean? That if we paid $1,000 between the two of us, we got 200,000 Hilton points, and we can use that to pay for the yacht ride. So it ends up being half the price when you just buy the points. So a lot of people say you shouldn't buy Hilton points, that's terrible value, but we immediately got that value back by cutting the price of our yacht ride in half. And so that's a lot of value. If you have just a couple thousand points left over that you need to get that 5 nights with the 5th night free at Hilton, then that's another way to get those extra points, is just to buy the points. I wouldn't say go and buy all the points you need to stay for a Hilton stay, because you might as well just use cash in most of the times, but it can be really worthwhile. All right, guys, that is my chat on points today. I hope you enjoyed it. That was a lot of getting lost in the weeds, but this is what I do. I go down rabbit holes to explore how to get really good value for the whole family. So thanks again for tuning in. Go ahead and check out our cinematic video from the Maldives, or our vlog, so we can chat a little bit more about that. And I'll catch you on the flip side.